Welcome back everybody, and welcome to those who are joining. Now in this session we're going to be focusing on water safety in Essex. As we know, the summer is coming up soon, so this is a very important topic for us. I am here with Nick, and I'm here with Andrea from the lifeboats, and I'm here with Oliver from the Essex Fire. I would like to now pass this time on to you. Oh, sorry. Guys, just a quick reminder, please don't forget to do the QR codes that, and ask your questions through, send them through so that we make sure that the best 2 questions will be entered in for a prize. I will now pass this time on to you so you can tell us a bit about your roles.
Thanks, Janelle. Hello, everyone. I'm Andrea McAllister and I work for Essex Fire and Rescue Service. I'm the Road and Water Safety Manager, and we're so pleased to be here today. Thank you so much, because you might not ordinarily think of fire and rescue services as someone that might be interested in water, but we do an awful lot of work in regards to water rescues, and we hope you'll never need them, but if you do ever need them, we do have specialist rescue crews across the whole county that respond to emergencies at the water. And I work in prevention, and prevention's no different. So we work with other organisations, with data and with presentations to try and keep people as safe as possible, so that they can enjoy the water. And we know there's huge benefits of being near water and enjoying the water. We just want people to be able to do that safely. So we work incredibly hard with a number of organisations, a key one being the RNLI. So I'd hand over to Nick right now.
Thanks, Andrea. Hi everyone, my name is Nick Ayres. I am the Water Safety Lead for the Royal National Lifeboat Institute here up in the north and east of England. And my role with the charity is to look at drowning prevention initiatives, working with partners like the Fire and Rescue Service, the police and other organisations to try and halve and sort of get a downward trend in drowning in and around the UK. Sadly, we know that about 400 lives are lost to drowning. And half of those people that did end up in the water didn't intend to enter the water in the first place. So it's accidental drownings that we're really trying to reduce. So that's why we're here today, to talk about water safety, to really raise the awareness of knowing what to do in an emergency if anything, should anything go wrong. Thanks.
So we'll make a start, and it's quite a fun start, because what we'd like you to do, and thank you, Oliver, this is my colleague Oliver, who works in prevention also in Essex Fire, and Janelle, thank you so much for being our participants in this. But we're hoping the first part of this presentation you guys can participate within your classrooms as well, and with your schools and afterwards. So it's a great start, because what we want you to do is, in your mind's eye, imagine a really lovely warm summer's day, and you're planning to go with your friends somewhere peaceful and quiet, but to have some fun, either near a lake, near the sea, going to the seaside for the day, or near a river. And we know that this has huge benefits, and lots of people do this. So in your mind's eye, I want you to imagine that you're planning this great day. And so think about areas that are local to you that you might have chosen. So Oliver, have you got anywhere in mind?
Yes, I've got a river that's local to me that's very popular with school pupils, especially in the summer. So I'd probably go there.
Excellent. And do you know, have you got anywhere that you would choose?
I'd probably go like Southend Beach.
Nice. Yeah, very popular for day trips and things like that, isn't it? So with those places in mind, I want you to think about that day and everything that would make it a really fun day with your friends. So what's nearby? What might you do for food, Oliver?
There's a lot of takeaways just up the road, so I'd probably get a delivery, maybe a pizza. There's a Domino's up the road, so yeah, I'd order a takeaway.
Do they deliver?
They definitely do, yeah.
Excellent.
What about you, Joanne?
Probably like the fish and chips across the road near the beach.
That's my favourite, for sure, definitely. Okay, so we've had some food, or we're thinking about food. What would be like the main draw to that location? Oliver, maybe you want to sort of start to.
So at this, the river local to me, there's a big waterfall that often gets a lot of people climbing up it in the summer.
Okay.
Also swimming, maybe a bit of water sports as well.
Stand-up paddleboarding and different things like that. Yeah,
kayaking. Yeah.
What about at Southend? What kind of activities would you normally do? Would you go in the water, or would you sort of stay on dry land?
Probably like go in the water like a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. but stay on the dry land.
Yeah.
Probably like visit Adventure Island next door.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
yes.
good choice. Yeah. Okay, so we're thinking about those sort of next steps. Now, what I want you to think about, if something went wrong, so you're in the water with your mates, and something went wrong. Somebody got in trouble in the water. Let's maybe go to the river location first. So you mentioned the waterfall. Would you see the waterfall as a bit of a danger, or would you see that as a sort of a thrill, an activity to sort of climb up?
As a young-minded person, I'd see it as I'd
thrill.
enjoy it,
Yeah.
a thrill.
Yeah.
But then, of course, it does come with its dangers. I'd like to think with the people that I go with, that everyone would be able to rescue me if there was a problem.
Okay. Yeah. What about the beach location? Any sort of known dangers, or what would be the?
I
Do we know?
think they do have like a few things that go on, like some people probably get on some boats or something,
Yeah.
or like even just entering the sea, probably going like further in than what they should.
Yeah. Okay. So now let's think about that. The waterfall, for instance. Something went wrong. Somebody got into trouble. Maybe they're getting swept down the river, and that can happen quite quickly, without you potentially not even knowing. What would be going through your head if you saw your friend drifting down the river?
I mean, I'd like to call the emergency services as quickly as possible.
Okay.
So by the time we act on anything that they're on in their way, call out for help. Passerbys might be able to help. Maybe they have experience. But also, as a strong swimmer, I may put myself in a situation where I could go and collect them, hopefully, and rescue them.
So you would sort of swim after your friend in that. Yeah, and that's probably what a lot of people would probably do in that sense.
Tempting,
very
isn't it?
tempting. So first thing, the call for help is brilliant. So that's one of the things that we'd ask anyone to do, whether you're at the coast, inland, or in any emergency situation. Get help there. Let them know that something's happening. Inland locations are slightly different. Do you know who you would sort of call in that situation if your friend is drifting down the river?
I'd call the fire service, because they have the
brilliant.
capability
Yeah.
to rescue them.
Yeah.
But again, you mentioned if they're maybe unconscious or I don't know, if they're drowning.
Yeah.
I'd also probably call the ambulance service.
Okay, yeah. So in any sort of drowning situation or a near drowning situation, you'd call 999, like you said. If you're inland, call the fire service, let them know what's happening, where you are, key landmarks. If you know a postcode or the town that you're in, definitely get that across. And then if we switch it to the coastal location, that might be a different person that you need to get hold of. Do you know who that would be?
Would it be like the lifeguards?
Okay, so like the lifeguards, we have a Coast Guard. So the Coast Guard would be the emergency service that you'd want to get there. They would then organise who else to bring, and it would probably be the RNLI lifeboat nearby at Southend, or it could be the beach patrol at Southend as well, and they would provide that sort of help. But one thing that we've sort of picked up on, that you would all potentially swim after your friend. Now that's the one thing that we really don't want you to do, and we want you to use your voice by shouting to them to say, float on your back. We have a big campaign to say float to live, and that's a life-saving position in the water. So if you're in trouble in the water, we would say float on your back, spread your arms out, legs out, head back, and that way you're using your natural buoyancy in the water. And then you can start to figure out your next steps. Maybe there's like a life ring on the riverbank. Maybe there's something that you reach the casualty with, or your friend with, and keeping an eye on that person at all times. And don't put yourself in danger. There's so many incidents around the UK where somebody has got into trouble in the water and they've tried to help and actually come off worse off. So that's number one. Call 999. Ask for the Coast Guard if you're at the coast, or the Fire and Rescue Service, and then make sure you're shouting to them to say float on your back and try and throw something.
Yeah, it's really not a time to be shy, is it?
No,
you've got
definitely
to find
not.
your voice and shout for help and things. So, and one of the things statistically that we know is when we're out enjoying these day trips, we might not have been to these locations before. We might be in a different part of the river, and knowing where you are is a really key point. So we often recommend an app called What 3 Words, so that it's a great way of telling your friends where you are and where you're going to meet anyway, but it helps you get that pinpoint location, because if you're panicking, you'll want where you are as soon as possible. It's really great to be able to know those landmarks and know where to ask the emergency services to attend.
The four main sort of things that we sort of really encourage people to do when they're going to a coastal location, like you've just described, at the river or the beach, to stop and think and discuss the dangers that you sort of see. So you said, Oliver, about the waterfall, but you saw it as a thrill, something to climb up. In our eyes, it could be a thrill done in the right way, swimming around in an organised activity, but it also could be a danger. So stop and thinking about what your dangers are in and around the water. At the beach, it could be a current, like a rip current. It could be a pier. It could be something that's really like large breaking waves or anything like that. And then it's staying together as a group. So in those scenarios, you're not splitting off, going to one end of the beach or the other. You're staying as a group. So if something goes wrong, someone else can make that call. And then, like we said, float to live, floating on your back if someone gets in trouble, and then calling 999 and asking for the right emergency service. And if you're not sure who it is, just describe what's going on and where you are. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Cool.
That's great, thank you, and thank you for your honesty. And I hope in your scenarios that you've thought of in your classes that you've got brilliant, fun, safe summer days ahead of you with friends to enjoy. So for the next part of our session, we're just going to run through a quiz that is available on the RNLI website. And for any other education providers that might want to have these conversations in your classroom. But we've just got a few questions we're going to run through. And again, thank you again, Oliver and Janelle, for being our contestants, if you like. I didn't realise there were prizes, so we'll have to think about that. But thinking about the scenario we just covered, question 1, if that's okay. Should you find yourself in water unexpectedly, what do you think you should do? So A, start swimming straight away before you get colder. B, move your arms and legs around as quickly as possible to generate some warmth. Or C, fight those instincts to swim and float on your back until the effects of cold water shock pass. So what do we think? Oliver, I'll go to you first.
As a strong swimmer, I'd say A, to swim as quickly as possible out of the water, get yourself out of danger. I'd say A.
Great, and Janelle?
I'd go with C, like to just float on my back and just like forget all my instincts.
Yeah, that's a great answer. Thanks, Janelle. And exactly as Nick said, so taking that, if you can, and it is fighting your instincts, so it is incredibly hard, but taking that moment, that pause, to try and gather yourself and give yourself time and float. And we've got a great film that we'd like to share with you that sort of captures that for you. So we'll go straight to the film from there, please.
Everyone who falls into cold water unexpectedly has the same instinct. To swim hard. To fight the cold water. But when people fight it, chances are they lose. Cold water shock makes them gasp uncontrollably and breathe in water. Then they drown. But if they just float until the cold water shock has passed, they'll be able to control their breathing and have a far better chance of staying alive.
Thank you. It's such a great film. It's a very impactful film and just shows you, I think, that shock that, like Nick said at the start, most people, the majority of the people that drown were never expected to go in the water in the first instance. So that shock is really quite impactful.
Brilliant. Okay, so question 2, we're going to look at the how the body reacts. So the effect on the body of entering water, anything below 15 degrees Celsius, is often underestimated. Cold water shock can lead to drowning. Which of these are some of the symptoms of cold water shock? So we've got answer A, a decrease in breathing rate, shivering, slurred speech, and a feeling of confusion. B, having a temperature, sweating, or feeling hot. And then C could be an increase in heart rate, an involuntary gasp of breath, an increase in breathing rate, and a feeling of panic. Which ones of those do you think is the best answer? I'll go with you first.
I'd probably go with A.
Okay.
Yeah.
Why would you say A?
Probably because when you're cold, you'd be shivering. Like you probably wouldn't be able to formulate your words properly.
Okay. Cool.
But yeah.
Oliver?
I'd say C, an increase in heart rate and an increase in breathing.
Okay.
Just because, you know, when you jump in cold water, you get that gasp as it's cold. So I assume.
Okay, brilliant. Yeah, so we've got another short video that we're going to watch, and hopefully that will tell us the answer to this question number 2.
Do you know what to do if you suddenly fall into cold water? We're going to find out today using the RLI HQ survival pool and an unsuspected member of the public. 1, 2, 3. When you fall into cold water, you panic. It's called cold water shock. It increases your heart rate, making you gasp uncontrollably and thrash around, increasing the chance of you swallowing water into your lungs and drowning. What I did was float, find my instinct to panic or swim hard, leaning back in the water, keeping my airway clear, opening my body up and extending my arms and my legs. If you can stay calm for 60 to 90 seconds and get your breath back, it allows you to think straight and plan your next move. To improve your chance of survival, drop your float.
Cool. Okay, so question C, are we all in agreement with that one? Yeah. So C is the best sort of answer for that one. Getting into that float position on your back, spread your arms, spread your legs, remain calm. That will be your best position to get into. Brilliant.
Great. I can see where you were thinking though, hypothermia and everything. You're on the right track, but yeah, it's such a key message of Float to Live. So question 4, or our question, it will come up as question 4, is around some of the flags. So those of you that do go to the beaches will be familiar that there's different flags, and sometimes it's difficult to know what they each mean. But question 4, we'd like to know what you think this flag might mean, that you can see on the picture there. Do you think it's A, a lifeguard is watching the beach and it's safe to swim or bodyboard? B, do not use inflatables due to windy or unsafe conditions? Or C, a strong current is running out to sea, which can quickly drag people and debris away from the shoreline into deep water. So what do you think that flag might mean? Oliver, do you want to go first with
I'd
that?
personally say B. I mean, by the flag you can see which direction the wind's going in, and windy conditions with inflatables is probably not the best idea.
Yeah, how about you, Janelle?
I was going to say A, but yeah.
I think, yeah, you're absolutely right. So well done. And it's easy to be confused because there are lots of different flags. But Nick, do you want to talk about why that's so important?
Yeah, sure. Our beach lifeguards go out to a lot of people being swept out using inflatables, and that's like inflatable stand-up paddleboards that we've all seen a huge uprise in, and also like your unicorns and your flamingos. You know, they're brilliant for the pool, for the swimming pool, you know, in a closed environment. But the problem is with inflatables, they can be picked up by the wind really, really quickly. And often that's the leading cause for rescues from our lifeguards in the summer months. Do you have an inflatable unicorn, Oliver? Or
No, unfortunately I don't.
no? Okay, cool. What about you, Jamal? No? Good. Excellent. Good answers then. So question for that one, the answer is B. Good.
And this sort of leads on to that sort of idea that the wind might take you out, and there's other things that affect, you know, our power in the sea, and people not understanding tides and coming to seaside locations to have a great day, and that's absolutely what we'd want to encourage in Essex, because there's lots of benefits from that, but not understanding tides and the impacts and things like that is a huge risk. So our last few questions really is about rip currents and rip tides. So Which of the following is not an indicator of a rip current? So A, bits of debris floating out to sea, B, smoother channels of water between sets of waves, or C, large breaking waves. So this is what is not an indicator of a rip current. So what's your kind of understanding of that? What do you think the answer might be? I'll go with Oliver first.
I believe that C is not an indicator of a rip current. Large breaking waves, I think they're very common as well. So yeah, not an indicator.
Great, thanks.
I was actually going to say C as well.
Cool.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Good work.
Yeah, it's a tricky one. Rip currents and tidal flow that we see in and around the coast. A lot of people sort of get caught up with rip tides. You might have heard that phrase before, but there isn't really a thing called a rip tide. It's a rip current or tidal movement. So every location there'll be some form of tidal movement swinging, left or to the right, the ebb and flow of the water. But a rip current is slightly different. As the water comes up the beach or onto the beach, it's got to find a course back out to sea, and often or not it will try and create a channel. It could be down the side of like the pier at Clacton or the pier at Southend, where there's deep water sections. That water will then feed back out to sea. So it's like a gutter on the side of a house. The rain will come down on the house and then feed into the gutter and then flow back into the drains. It's exactly the same as that effect. So the water's always moving back out to sea. So that's where we sort of see the troubles and the dangers. So that one's a good question there. So not the indicator. So the next question, question 8, still on the theme of rip currents. So rip currents, if you can imagine, the water is flowing back out to sea. Okay, so the waves are coming in and then the water needs to try and drain back out to sea. What should you do? So if you find yourself caught in a rip current, the water heading away, you're getting further and further away from the beach, your friends, should you, A, not try to swim against it, instead swim parallel to shore until free of the rip and then head to shore? Or B, dive under the water and swim hard to break free from it? Or C, swim as hard as you can against it before it drags you further out? Tough question.
Really
yeah,
tough.
I know we haven't covered this in this session, but it's just trying to think about what you might know.
I'd personally say swim parallel to it to get into shore.
Okay.
I'd go with A.
Yeah, I think after watching that first video,
Yeah.
I'd fight my instincts and just try not to swim,
Yeah.
and then go parallel.
So
A
often
as
than
well.
not, it's a very common thing. Like the answers here, it's all trying to make yourself as calm as possible, and the easiest thing to do is to swim parallel to the shore. Okay, so working out where you are, so floating on your back for about 90 seconds before you actually make that move. Think about where you are, where the shore is, where you're going, and then swim parallel to it. Yeah, but if you're with your mates and your mates are seeing you on the beach, and you're caught in this rip current and you're floating on your back, if you can't swim parallel, that's fine, just float on your back. A lot of people think that the rip will actually take them way out to Australia or Ibiza or somewhere like that, but actually it will just take you beyond the break of the surf. So floating on your back, waving for help, shouting for help, and hopefully someone on land has made that call for 999 for the Coast Guard or the Beach Patrol or the lifeguards. So just try and remain calm as possible. Does that kind of make sense? Yeah, cool. Brilliant.
Yeah, really good answers, and thank you so much. I really hope that people in the classrooms have had a good chance to have these conversations too. It's sometimes not something you would talk about when you're planning your really fun day out at the seaside or at a river or at a lake, but it's worth having these conversations. They might just save your life.
Cool.
So I think that's it from us, but we're more than happy to take any questions that might have come through.
Thank you. I have got a list of questions that have come through.
Brilliant.
So the first one is from Angel from Basildon Upper Academies. And Angel's asking, what if you're unable to get onto your back when you're in the pool? How can you prevent cold water shock apart from lying on your back? Furthermore, do you think it would be beneficial if schools taught students about CPR or mouth to mouth?
Oh, there's
Brilliant
lots
question.
in there, yeah.
Shall I take a
You
couple?
take first,
Yeah. So the best thing to do is to practice floating. in the swimming pool. So if you're not familiar with swimming or getting in the water yourself, go down to your local swimming pool in a supervised state, whether that's in a lesson or just in a public session, and practice that getting onto your back, rolling onto your back. You could do it step by step by holding onto the side of the pool, putting your head back in the water. Even in the bath, just getting into that sort of motion of getting your ears in the water. That's the best thing to do. Trying to remain calm in that situation is always going to be tricky. So if you can practice in the pool in a controlled environment, then hopefully it will become sort of second nature when something does go wrong.
Yeah.
I guess the CPR one.
Yeah, and thank you, Basildon Academy. That's my old school, so I'm really pleased they're participating. Yeah, we would love more water safety education being in schools. So what, as sort of water safety professionals, people living and breathing this subject matter, we know that following the pandemic there's a big gap in lots of education and awareness. So even swimming lessons and knowing how to swim, there'll be an increase in young people particularly that haven't gone through 3 years of swimming lessons. And the other thing that we are worried about, if you like, is pools closing and the opportunity to learn to swim not being out there. But in terms of CPR and water safety, we would love to see more of that in schools, because swimming lessons and knowing what to do, and we obviously know from Oliver there's lots of also keen, fit young people out there that like to enjoy sports and swimming, but knowing what to do from a water safety point of view is really key. So water safety education, CPR and things like that. We're lucky at Essex Fire that we've got a fantastic education team that deliver summer safety and winter safety sessions. We often think about accidental drowning as a summer issue, but we know from recent high profile cases that's not always the case. And as well as our education team and outreach team that try and meet the public and meet young people whilst they are out and about enjoying their days, the RNLI also have teams of volunteers and members of staff that do this day in and day out. So yes, absolutely, we would want more and more of that always. Prevention is key.
Thank you. The next question is from Elena Kisti from Basildon Upper Academy, and she's asking which country has the dirtiest water in England?
Oof. Dirtiest water?
County, sorry.
Which
county? Okay, right.
Well, different beaches have different, I'm not sure we'd have the exact answer, but different beaches, they use flags and information, and there's awards often about the cleanest beaches and things like that. But you're right in thinking about not all water is good to swim in, and you never know really what's under the surface, certainly in lakes and in rivers and in reservoirs and places where you might not traditionally think about going and enjoying water, but we know have increased with more staycations and people staying home in the summer. But yeah, just you never really know what's in the water or underneath the surface. So approved venues really, I suppose, is probably the best advice to give from that point of view.
Yep, thank you. And the last question we have here is from Danny Baldry from Basildon Upper Academies, and he's saying, is the water safety, as there isn't usually lifeguards at the beach, and what actually causes drowning? Like, how does it happen?
What was the first part of it? Sorry.
Is the water safety, as there isn't usually lifeguards at the beach? Okay,
so at about 250 beaches are lifeguarded in the UK by the RNLI lifeguard service. Some councils, some local authorities provide a beach patrol service, so people who are just supervising the beach, and they'll provide that sort of coverage. I'm trying to think if there's anything else with that one.
Sometimes there's volunteer groups that will lifeguard the place, and sometimes tourist information will give information on that. But what I would say is drowning doesn't happen like it does in the movies.
No.
It's not this big dramatic, everyone's going to notice, everyone's going to hear. It can happen very quickly and very quietly. And so if you are out with friends, just stay alert is the first kind of message. Stay alert, stay aware of your situation, your surroundings and where your friends are, and stay together. because it isn't what you might think it might be when it does happen.
And we know that half of the drownings that happen are accidental, so people just going about their everyday lives. So it does happen when you're not expecting it. So yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Andrea, Nick and Oliver for joining me in this session. And I'd just like to thank all of you guys who joined and asked some brilliant questions. Just to remind you, we have got our last and final session at 2:15, who will be joining with Roger again. Thank you, see you all then.
Hello, my name's Robert. I'm Head Cadet at the Harrods Unit for Essex Police. I joined the Police Cadets to protect and serve my community. I like to help on voluntary events, so sort of charity events, litter picks with McDonald's, CGN restaurants, and generally just help the community and make them feel safer.
Hello, my name's Vicky Thorne, and the reason why I joined Cadets is because I like to help my community, help people.
My best moment at Cadets was the Tedron Show in 2019 when I helped locate a missing child, and basically I helped a mother in distress just at ease.
My best moment is making new friends and honestly meeting new people.
Do it. Join Cadets. It will be the best sort of moments of your life.
It's really fun. You get to learn new things that normal people won't be able to learn.